Hey everybody, it's your old buddy, Uncle Rich, the truth detector, live from Danbury, Connecticut. And guys, tonight's show is going to be called Covering Climate Now. Nice job, Kurt. And today's date is September 16th. This is show 278. And Kurt, can you bring up the still number O, because I want everybody to, there you go. Guys, this is the logo that Covering Climate Now will be using. And I want everybody to understand that this is going to be a week-long event. So this is going to go from the 16th to the 23rd. Nice dissolve, Kurt. 16th to the 23rd. And on the 23rd, they're going to have a Climate Action Summit at the United Nations. So guys, the jig is up. I mean, for one solid week where we're going to get everybody that's a climate denier, Uncle Joey, you're going to have so many facts and figures coming out of your going into your brain. I can imagine what's going to be coming out the other end. But guys, we're going to have a lot of fun. And I'm going to more or less read you the mission statement that Covering Climate Now is virtually what their mission statement is, what they're going to try to accomplish. So I'm going to read this, and Kurt's going to do a couple of stills while we're going through it. But there is no bigger story than climate change and the threat it poses to life on Earth. Despite this, there have been several missteps in the media's reporting on it over the last few decades. You may have seen debates on TV between climate scientists and skeptics who have little scientific background. The one-on-one format suggests a false equivalency between the two. In newspapers and online, media outlets have often given platforms to writers whose political leanings, more than any rigorous engagement with the science, have influenced their outlook on climate change. And that's only considering the times climate change has made the news at all. Even in 2019, as experts warn, we have vanishing little time to divert catastrophe. And guys, that's what we're talking about here. Experts warn we have vanishing little time to divert catastrophe. And guys, that's what we're talking about here, a catastrophe. Major TV networks in the United States dedicated more coverage to Britain's royal baby during 1 week in May than they had to climate change over the whole year up to that point. So guys, you see what we're dealing with here, right? So this is an area in which the conversation has sought to define itself. The science of climate change invites all kinds of speculation and opinion, but without the expertise to support it, much of it is worthless. All of our authors must be involved in active research within the field they wish to write about, and they must disclose any relevant affiliations or funding sources. More often than not, the big environmental stories of the day lead our coverage. The climate crisis is serious. Telling the story is paramount. So guys, you could see the direction we're going in. We're going to go after the deniers, and we're going to give the old bada bing to the people that deserve it. But first, we're going to start off with clip number 4, and this was the summit where they held the Covering Climate Now. So we're going to hear from one of the reporters. So Kurt, number 4, please.
I don't necessarily expect my readers to go out and be activists, but I would expect that that informs maybe how they vote or the way they engage with political leaders.
So guys, you don't have to jump around, make a lot of noise. You don't have to go on a community access TV show. You don't have to really put a lot of time and effort into this. All you got to do is vote. All you got to do is vote. And remember the most important thing. Vote Democratic. Because as the show goes on, we're going to show you what a bunch of conniving hucksters Trump and his associates are. So, Kurt, let's start the madness with number 5, and we're going to get to the source and some facts. Hit it.
Last October 2018, the United Nations Climate Report 1.5 degrees came out and said, essentially, we have 12 years to cut emissions in half or face unimaginable catastrophe.
So guys, we've all heard AOC and preaching about 12 years. And now you see the actual source where she got her information from, and it was from the International Panel on Climate Change. These are a bunch of scientists, peer-reviewed scientists. And guys, we'll get into that a little bit later. But what do? They got to give AOC why did they go after her? And we're going to show you the clip. We're going to show you exactly what's going through her mind, and then we're going to show you how the Republicans treat her. So, Kurt, number 6, please.
The world is going to end in 12 years if we don't address climate change. And your biggest issue is your biggest issue is how are we going to pay for it? And this is the war. This is our World War II.
How are we going to pay for it? We're going to pay for it one way or the other. It's that simple. So let's pay for it, and let's get some benefits and some renewable energy where we can virtually eliminate the cost of electricity. I mean, if we got to pay the piper, let's choose the songs. And guys, now let's see what the Republican Party will do to intimidate somebody like AOC. And you're not going to believe what you see, but I tell you what, Chris Cuomo is going to have a lot of fun with it. So first the bitterness, and you'll see this is from Elizabeth. So anyway, Kurt, number 7, please.
This is the face of socialism and ignorance. Does Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez know the horror of socialism? My father was minutes from death in Cambodia before a forced marriage saved his life. That's socialism. Forced obedience, starvation. Mine is a face of freedom. My skin is not white. I'm not outrageous, racist, nor socialist. I'm a Republican.
Now, you're a jerk is what you are. And to take advantage of people like Kenny Johnson and Uncle Joey, to take advantage of the simple folk and tell them that socialism is going to bring dead people in the streets like you showed, we're not going to let you get away with that. And guys, I can't understand why somebody would want to do something like this, but you know what? Thankfully, there's people like Chris Cuomo that will take her to task, and I want to tell you, he's going to really take her out to the woodshed. But first, we'll just have the little teaser clip, and later on, we're going to have a lot of fun. So, Kurt, let's see, number 8, please.
But the idea of saying, if you want a Green New Deal, if you want single-payer health care, you're going to wind up killing people in the streets, like happened with my family and people they knew in Cambodia. I mean, that is toxic politics. You must know that.
I just disagree with you on that. I was merely making the
Disagree?
point of...
Set her face on fire.
I was merely making the point.
You burned
I was
her
merely
face
making the point,
up.
Chris,
You
that
put her on fire.
it is... do you want to know what incites violence? That's socialism. We've seen that
I think
in
ads
history.
like that incite violence.
What incites violence is some knucklehead like you burning her picture on national TV. That's what incites violence. And guys, why don't people stay? Well, I'll tell you what, we'll let Chris. Chris takes her to the woodshed. So we'll have a lot of fun with that. So let's see. And then the next clip is going to be, what's the one thing the Republicans always get asked backwards? There's an assault on the truth. And why is there an assault on the truth? Because they're chronic pathological liars. So guys, now you got to remember, our last show was called, what was it called? Sharpie Gate. So we took Trump out to the woodshed on that one. But guys, this is just to verify what they found. And I'm sure the people in Washington probably said, hey, Uncle Rich up in Danbury is on to us. We better start covering our asses, because I tell you, this guy's making all kinds of trouble. Right, Uncle Joey? Uncle Joey hates when I take credit. But guys, hey, I make things happen. What are you going to do? So anyway, let's see how the Republican Party tries to spin the assault on the truth with number 9. Kurt, hit it.
Assault on the truth again. CNN now learning that the White House played a direct role in leaning on forecasters to cover for the president's lie about Hurricane Dorian in Alabama as the killer hurricane threatened other parts of the U.S.
Can you imagine your boss coming up to you and asking you to lie for him? What would you do? You want me to lie for you? For what? Why? But guys, let's see. We're also going to show you a clip that features Time magazine. And guys, in its 96 years of existence, Time magazine has only printed 5 issues that contain one subject. And it's got to be accurate, and it's got to be credible, and it's got to be impending, and it needs attention. So guys, Time magazine went to the mats, and they're all, there's going to be 230 different news organizations following up on covering climate now. So Kurt, I see you're on the ball. Let's fire up that clip. Hit
Time
it.
Magazine editor-in-chief and CEO Edward Felsenthal joins me now. Edward, why are you dedicating an entire issue to this? Nothing else to talk about?
We have lots else to talk about on the website and in every other issue. This issue, as you said, only the 5th time in our 96 years that we have devoted front to back every page to a single topic, and that's really because of the urgency.
Front to back, that's how important climate change is. No more denying it. And guys, the people that are responsible for organizing this are Columbia Journal Review and National Magazine. So Kurt, let's prove my point with number 11.
CBS News, along with more than 250 news outlets worldwide, is participating in the Covering Climate Now project. It's a joint initiative founded by the Columbia Journalism Review and The Nation magazine. CBS News will be devoting the upcoming week to covering climate change from all angles across all of our platforms, broadcast and digital, leading up to the United Nations Climate Action Summit in New York on September 23rd. Face the Nation will kick it off on our special network Eye on Earth series this Sunday. But first, here are 5 things to know about climate change and its impact on the world already.
Imagine that. 5 things to know about climate change. Facts. And guys, we're going to get to a lot of them tonight. But the last short clip we're going to do is from my girlfriend Greta. And guys, she's a teenager that is making things happen when it comes to global warming. And in this clip, you're going to be able to sign up to join. So we'll play the clip, but don't forget, we're going to come back with the full clip. So if you miss anything, you'll be able to get it in the second half. So Kurt, number 12, please.
We are the younger generation. We are the ones who are going to be affected, and therefore we demand justice. What do we want? Climate justice! When do we want it? Now! Everyone should mobilize for the 20th and the 20th of September, because this is a global issue which actually affects everyone. We are all in the same boat.
We're all in the same boat. There's no planet B. And, you know, guys, I don't understand what could be holding a lot of people back. But, you know, they said that they're gonna be talking to evangelicals, to get evangelicals to understand how important it is that God wants us to preserve our planet. So anybody holding a Bible, get ready, because I tell you, the full clips are coming. So guys, now we're gonna go back to the let's see, now where are we now? I got mixed up here. All right, so, all right, yeah, now we're gonna go back to the full clips, and this first one is gonna be climate change now, and this is the full summit, the full clip on the summit. So Kurt, number 21, please.
We're still at a point where most Americans get their news from television, and television has been the sort of biggest laggard in terms of devoting resources to climate change.
I've covered climate change since 1989 all around the world, and one of the striking things is that the U.S. media's coverage is about 10 years behind Europe in terms of understanding the science, crediting the science, not swallowing the industry propaganda.
We're facing a crisis, an emergency, a climate emergency in this country, one of such urgency that it demands a new conversation among journalists.
Last October 2018, the United Nations Climate Report 1.5 degrees came out and said, essentially, we have 12 years to cut emissions in half or face unimaginable catastrophe.
I wrote a column about that at the time, saying that the news media needed to take this on in a sort of emergency way, to treat it as the emergency that it is.
The media in general has not done a great job of covering climate change. People like me, weathercasters on television, have not done a great job. That is changing, especially in broadcast meteorology.
I want to do a lot of good climate coverage. I want to find ways to tell compelling stories about it, to communicate the basic framework.
When the youth are covered by media, we are patronized and not taken seriously, even though the role of the climate crisis has now been put up into the youth's hands.
I don't necessarily expect my readers to go out and be activists, but I would expect that that informs maybe how they vote or the way they engage with political leaders.
This effort of different organizations in journalism to collaborate instead of compete is very important to getting that story told right.
Guys, it's pretty simple, isn't it? I mean, it's pretty simple. And, you know, the first airing on anything to do with global warming or climate change on a big network TV program came on Face the Nation back in April 19th, 1970, and this is before the first Earth Day was held. And guys, I remember the first Earth Day like it was yesterday. But anyway, we're going to play this clip for you. And anyway, Kurt, let's go backwards. 1970, hit it.
From CBS Washington, in color, Face the Nation, a spontaneous and unrehearsed news interview.
Senator Nelson, Congressman McCloskey, next Wednesday is Earth Day.
What are people going to do, though, when they find out that this cleaning up of the environment might involve less use of automobiles by them?
Within 25 years, most major metropolitan areas in America, if we don't stop it, you will not be able to stay outdoors more than 2 or 3 hours without a serious health hazard. You'll have to go out, your kids will go outdoors and play in gas masks.
That was the very first time we had an extended conversation about the environment on Face the Nation. And that dire prediction of children having to wear gas masks while playing outside did not come true, but
your kids will go outside and have to wear a gas mask How absurd was that? Well, guys, it wasn't that absurd because there are people that are going to have to wear masks. So they got that part right, but they got the country wrong and they got the time wrong. But guys, yes, there are some countries where air pollution is so bad, people got to wear masks. And guys, you can remember, at the end of this video, take a good look at the Chinese atmosphere and think back to LA back in the early 70s. So, Kurt, let's have clip number 23, please.
Now they're running out of face masks in Beijing after a week of thick smog has left residents fearing for their health. Air particle readings are more than 20 times the safety levels recommended by the World Health Organization, as our science editor Tom Clark now reports.
Chairman Mao peers out through the smog. His portrait one of the few faces in Beijing
Everybody's
not
got a face mask.
The pollution that's hung over the capital and other major cities for 7 days is the thickest it's ever been.
Welcome to
Bloom
LA.
has erased Beijing's high-rise skyline.
Guys, does it bring back memories? Remember when LA was like that? And what did Trump just do? Didn't Trump just reverse, or he's trying to reverse, the air quality stuff that we put into place? Why does he do everything like that? Why does he got to destroy everything? He wants clean air. He doesn't know what he wants. Poor guy is so mixed up. But guys, the next clip is going to be from Face the Nation. And this is more or less about the consensus. And we'll just start laying it on now. Kurt, number 24.
And that dire prediction of children having to wear gas masks while playing outside did not come true. But almost 50 years later, more than 6 in 10 Americans see climate change as a crisis or serious problem, and more than half say we need to act now. Our CBS News poll out today also shows that just 1 in 10 Americans say human activity does not contribute at all to climate change. This week, CBS News, along with more than 250 news outlets worldwide, is participating in covering the Climate Now project. We'll be looking at the challenges and the political discord on what causes climate change and how we can fix it. Our poll also shows that 2 in 3 Americans trust their meteorologists for information about climate change, so who better to kick off this special series than CBS's own climate and weather contributor, Jeff Berardelli. Jeff, good to have you here.
Good to be here.
So part of the political argument around climate change is whether or not man plays a role in it. What does the science tell us?
Yeah, so unequivocally, the science believes that it's caused by human beings, by our burning of fossil fuels and our release of these heat-trapping greenhouse gases.
There you go.
97+% of scientists, there is a consensus, agree that it's caused by humans. These are the scientists that study it day in, day out. It's actually probably closer to around 99% or so.
A 97% consensus. Now, guys, you're going to say, where did they come up with this 97% consensus that all the climate scientists that publish peer-reviewed studies, where did they get this information from? They did a Nexus search, and they looked up global warming and climate change, and all the studies that were published, 97% of the studies all agreed. There was a consensus. They all agreed that the globe is warming and it's causing climate change. That's where you get the consensus from. So if anybody ever asked you, and it was done from the Australian, there's a college, Queensland College. I think his name is Todd. But anyway, you can look it up and you can see how they did it. But guys, the consensus is more like 99% now, because the science is certain. The science is settled. You know, there's still some people that might believe that the sun goes around the earth. Some people, when you ask their question, does the sun go around the earth and take a year to do it? 50% of the people will say yeah. Why? First of all, they're not paying attention, but hey, let's be honest with each other. A lot of people aren't too bright, and they don't care, and that's why they deny global warming and climate change. But guys, we're not going to let them get away with it anymore. So the next clip is also going to be from Face the Nation. So Kurt, let's just roll it along.
97+% of scientists, there is a consensus, agree that it's caused by humans. These are the scientists that study it day in, day out. It's actually probably closer to around 99% or so.
Peer review.
The last 5 years have been the hottest on Earth. It is the warmest it's been in modern human history, maybe even going back tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of years. I mean, we are a force of nature. There are 7.6 billion people on this Earth right now. And obviously, things are changing pretty quickly because of that.
And the argument, you have heard even members of the Trump administration say the climate is not definitive. What you're laying out is a very different description. And in our polling, we're seeing that Americans are willing to do things that they think will help the environment, recycle, use energy-efficient light bulbs, plastic bags at stores. Do those things make a dent in the problem you're describing?
So each individual thing we do doesn't, but if we have conversations and society starts to become more sustainable, kind of a grassroots thing where, you know, the low-hanging fruit, you only have to do the little things and those lead to better habits and kind of rub off on the people around you, your family, your friends, have the conversations, and that starts a grassroots movement from the bottom. At the same time, we need it to come from the top as well. So yes, it does make a difference, not the individual, let's say, plastic bottle that we're not using, but not using a plastic bottle hopefully leads to better habits in your life and in the lives of people around you. We need to become more sustainable with this Earth.
We have seen some really powerful storms and hurricanes. Are those driven by what you're describing with the climate changes?
Is the extreme weather driven by global warming? Guys, it's simple. It's physics. As water warms, it expands. So there you got rising oceans, you got melting glaciers, and you know, we've shown you the charts. I mean, you can deny them, but there's no reason to deny them. But what happens is, as the Earth gets warmer, warmer air holds more water vapor. And guys, it's called the Clausius-Clapeyron effect. For each degree Celsius, the Earth warms up, the atmosphere is able to retain 6% more water vapor. And guys, you don't have to look it up because we've shown it before 2 or 3 times on this show. So you can take it to the bank. When Uncle Rich tells you something, the only reason why I tell you is because I know I got my act together. So let's see what extreme weather will do. And don't forget, guys, when you have extreme weather, what happens? You got to rely on insurance to replace what's destroyed, right? And guys, let's be honest with each other. Flood insurance is not cheap. And the best thing to happen to you, instead of having your house flood, have it burned down. Because at least you'll be covered by the insurance. And I hate to say that, but it's the truth. So anyway, Kurt, let's have the next one. Hit it.
We have seen some really powerful storms and hurricanes. Are those driven by what you're describing with the climate changes?
Yes, so absolutely, that's part of it. So first of all, ocean heat content has been rising and sets records every single year. About 93% of the excess heat that's trapped by greenhouse gases gets stored in our ocean. Thankfully, otherwise we'd be burning up right now. The problem is all that builds up in the ocean and comes back as extreme weather. So first of all, we have hurricane cycles that are natural, and right now we think we're in a natural uptick. These cycles last around 20 to 30 years in the Atlantic Basin. However, on top of that, we've warmed the Earth by around 1 degree Celsius, about 2 degrees Fahrenheit. And there's research out there that shows that for every 1 degree of global warming, we see a disproportionate number of Cat 4s and Cat 5s. It increases by 25 to 30% the number of Cat 4s and Cat 5s.
This stat's going to blow you away, guys.
Storms like Irma and Dorian, which just demolished the Bahamas. And here's the craziest part of this. Compare a storm with winds of 185 miles an hour to a storm with winds of 75 miles an hour. You might think to yourself, okay, twice as much damage, 3 times as much damage, 4 times as much damage. No, it's 1,300 times the damage
hard to
potential
believe, isn't
for a
it?
storm with winds of 185 like Dorian or a low-end hurricane. That's why just an increase in 20 or 30 miles an hour because of climate change makes a world of difference in terms of damage.
So when we talk about solutions to this, the Paris Climate Change Accord that the Obama administration joined, the Trump administration says it's pulling out of, it locked in or tried to lock in temperature rises at just, 2 degrees Celsius. That you heard from Ambassador Power say that's not enough yet, but
true.
it's something.
Right.
So
Exactly.
why does 2 degrees make that much of a difference?
Okay, so why does, 1 degree make such a difference? Guys, like we showed on the last show, what happens when you have a glass of water at 32 degrees and at 33 degrees? 1 degree means it's frozen. But guys, he's going to explain a much better scenario. But I mean, if anybody ever really gets cute with you, oh, what's 1 degree? Big deal. 1 degree is the difference between frozen water and non-frozen water. But let's think about it more bodily, more internally, because this is going to wake you up. So Kurt, hit it.
So why does 2 degrees make that much of a difference?
Okay, so 2 degrees Celsius is close to 4 degrees Fahrenheit. It's actually about 3.5 degrees Fahrenheit. So think about this.
3.8 degrees,
it doesn't
guys.
sound like a lot. A couple of degrees doesn't sound like a lot. But let's say that your body temperature goes up by 3 or 4 degrees. The Earth system is just as sensitive as your body. If your body goes up from 99 to 103 degrees, your bodily functions begin to break down. Same thing in the Earth. Same thing in the Earth. Everything's very sensitive. Everything's very interconnected. And things begin to break down. That's what we're concerned about.
What's the impact on the economy?
It's a huge impact, especially as we head decades forward. Right now, we're already seeing a lot more billion-dollar disasters, so it's already impacting us. But think about this. If the seas rise 2, 3, 4 feet, look at all the trillions of dollars of real estate is in the way of that. It's going to desertify, climate change will desertify large areas of productive agriculture. So people won't be able to make a living anymore. They will migrate. It forces international migration. Picture the time when instead of 10,000 people kind of knocking at your door, we have 100,000 people knocking at our door. It causes international instability. What I would say is there are things we can do. Renewable energy is something everybody agrees on, Republicans and Democrats, and so we should move forward fast.
Thank you for connecting all those dots for us.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
Next week, we will talk with former Secretary of State John Kerry. He negotiated that Paris Climate Change Accord in the Obama administration. That's next Sunday on Face the Nation.
Boy, I'd love to hear that, and I'd love to hear why Trump pulled out of the Paris Accord. But I think we all know why. Because Obama signed it. And anything Obama signed, Trump wants to undo.
Plus, Trump doesn't use condoms.
All right. So anyway, guys, now we're going to go back because we talked about the 5 things that are conclusive when it comes to climate change. And we're going to show you this with CBS kicking off, the fact that they're covering climate now. So Kurt, number 28, please.
But first, here are 5 things to know about climate change and its impact on the world already. More and more countries around the world are experiencing record high temperatures, droughts, unprecedented floods, and other extreme weather events. According to NASA, the average global temperature has increased by 0.8 degrees Celsius, with 18 of the 19 warmest years occurring since 2001. The UN has warned that if the average global temperature increases by 2 degrees Celsius, there could be massive sea level rise and almost all the world's coral reefs would die. Increasing temperatures are already affecting agricultural productivity, putting fruit and vegetable supplies at risk. Unpredictable precipitation patterns and more frequent extreme weather events are adding to disruptions in the food system. Farmers in the U.S. have already felt the harsh outcomes of droughts and unprecedented flooding.
Drought? Never mind the drought.
Countries around the world are starting to experience stress on their water supply. The World Resources Institute found that 17 countries are currently under extremely high water stress, which is when the demand for water exceeds the available amount or poor quality restricts its use. 12 out of those 17 countries are in the Middle East and North Africa. What's contributing to this global water crisis? Population growth, socioeconomic development, and urbanization are increasing water demands, while climate change is causing unpredictable precipitation levels and demand. Last year, Cape Town, South Africa narrowly avoided a day zero when the city's water supply was expected to run out. A government report released last November warned that a warmer planet could mean a big hit to GDP in the coming decades. The report, issued by 13 federal agencies, predicts that if significant steps are not taken to rein in global warming, the damage will knock as much as 10% off the size of the American economy by century's end.
Uh-oh.
In 2016, 174 countries and the European Union signed on to the UN Paris Agreement, which aims to prevent global temperatures from rising 2 degrees Celsius through nationally determined contributions. But the UN notes the agreement itself is meaningless without ambitious action from each nation. President Trump left the agreement in 2017, laying the groundwork for the Trump administration's environmental deregulation policies.
I was elected to represent the citizens of Pittsburgh, not Paris.
Mr. Trump says he isn't convinced by the science around climate change, expressing skepticism that it's man-made. On Face the Nation for the next 2 Sundays, we'll be looking at the latest findings on the science behind climate change, as well as the politics surrounding the issue. Plus, CBS News polling looks at what Americans think about the urgency of the climate change crisis and what should be done about it.
Guys, that's the next question. How are we going to go about doing this? You know, we're going to have a war on carbon. Let's get our act together. Let's go about it the right way, you know? But the next series of clips, we're going to have a lot of fun because, you know, you would think that a news organization would want to tell the people of the country the problems that we're facing. I mean, if there was imminent danger, don't you think a news organization should be responsible to tell people? I mean, if there was if a nuclear power plant melted down, don't you think a news organization should tell everybody, hey, we got problems? When there's a hurricane, don't you think the news organizations tell everybody the truth? But there's one news organization that feels they don't have to tell the truth. Why? Because they're affiliated with a party. What party? The Republican Party. And you're going to say, Rich, how could you possibly say that? How could you say Fox News is affiliated with the Republican Party? Guys, they're not affiliated with the Republican Party. They are the Republican Party. There's no doubt about it. And the next series of clips, we're going to show you how they trick the simple folk and how they bring in their proxies to give people like Kenny Johnson and Uncle Joey the old double reverse. So, Kurt, let's start the fun by exposing Tucker with number 31.
Top Democrats are warning that if we don't give them full control of the U.S. economy right now, the world will literally be destroyed.
The world is going to end in 12 years if we don't address climate change. And your biggest issue is, your biggest issue is how are we going to pay for it? And like, this is the war. This is our World War II.
That's just pathetic. But this show cares about science, and so we want to assess the claim critically and scientifically, do we really have 12 years left? That's what they're saying. Is it true?
If they cared about the science, they wouldn't be trying to give us the double reverse, and they wouldn't be bringing on this huckster that they brought on with clip number 32. Kurt?
Do we have 12 years left? Is there science that shows that?
Actually, the Associated Press today debunked that, which was pretty fascinating for someone who studies energy and environmental issues, to see the Associated Press walk that back and say, we have never said there are 12 years left to fix climate change, but Beto has said it, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has said it, and the scientists who wrote this UN report have said, that is a made-up statistic that you all have extrapolated.
We just read it to you. But guys, see what they do? And the thing, no one will fact check them. And you think Tucker will say, wait a minute, you got that wrong. No, this is the way they do it. And that guy's name is Daniel Turner, and he represents Power of the Future. I wonder if you could think of what industry he's involved with. But we'll save that till the end. So, Kurt, let's just show how they conflate the consensus and how they try to give Uncle Joey and Kenny Johnson the double reverse. Number 33, please.
And the scientists who wrote this UN report have said, that is a made-up statistic that you all have extrapolated. It's interesting that they finally issued the report now.
Hold on, slow down. That's the party of science. Yes. We know that. They had a march for science after Trump got elected. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Because they believe in science and we don't. And we believe, obviously, in snake handling.
Kids marched out of class on Friday for science.
Look at the graphics.
But this doesn't sound like science.
No, the 12 years number is what the scientists said based upon the Paris Climate Accords. This is where we would like to get by 2030. This happened in 2018. So by 2030, we want to get here. Somehow that number became, if we don't do it in 12 years, the end of the world is imminent. And Beto has said that. Like I said, numerous Democrats have run on that issue. When Beto announced the other day, that clip that you just showed, he said that there was unanimous consensus among scientists that we had 12 years left to fix this.
Guys, you see, all they have to do is try to twist things just a little bit. Avoid some issues, don't mention some stuff, misrepresent some other stuff, and they just go right on with it. And this is what makes me crazy. And they never get corrected. And of course, you know, they're going to come up with, oh, they have the guys that these lefties want to save the planet. And we don't have a choice. What are you talking about? So, Kurt, let's try 34 now.
He said that there was unanimous consensus among scientists that we had 12 years left to fix this. And so it is nonsense that they've repeated this over and over again, and it never gets, as you said in your first segment, it never gets corrected and no one apologizes.
It never
so
gets
these
corrected.
are basically people you're saying who believe
corrected.
that Bill Nye is actually a science guy and not just a buffoon created by television.
Exactly. Okay. And what I'd love to ask these folks, I remember a report in 1989, I was a freshman in high school when it came out, that said we had 10 years left. By the year 2000, we had to fix climate change. What did they get wrong then? The same UN panel, by the way, issued both reports. What did they get wrong then that they are so certain that they have now that we have to fix climate change?
It sounds like a lot of what they say is just an effort to immediately take the moral high ground and holding the moral high ground, do whatever they want to the country.
Yeah, when you do things under the guise of protecting Mother Earth or for the planet or for the children, which is what a lot of them say. Remember those kids who stormed Dianne Feinstein's office a little while ago. When you do things for the planet, you are given a really wide berth.
When you say you're doing things for the planet, you're giving a wide berth. Now watch how they drag healthcare and Bernie flying on private jets, which is one thing. Bernie will always fly commercially. Well, no, I would say Bernie has a habit of flying commercially. I'm sure there's times he had to take a private jet. But guys, here we go. All they want to do is put that in the back of your mind so that somebody like Kenny Johnson, well, you know, Bernie flies private jets. And you say, no, Kenny, you got that wrong. Where did you hear that? On Fox News? Uh-huh. Well, guess what? Get your act together. and start watching a newsworthy news program. So, Kurt, with 35, let's prove my
you
point with healthcare and everything
a really
else.
wide berth, and so it is taking over the healthcare industry. It's taking over basically all employment. It's putting out of work millions of people who work in the energy industry. Funny that Beto wasn't talking about these things when he was running against Ted Cruz a couple months ago.
It's just fun. I mean, I think of myself as a pretty ardent conservationist, as someone who loves the outdoors and spends a lot of time there.
Stop it.
If they care so much about the environment, why are their cities filthy? The cities that they run, San Francisco, Los
Angeles.
Here
we go. Now the dirty
and why don't in their personal lives they dictate what they want government to mandate? Bernie Sanders prefers to fly on private jets. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez prefers to take the shuttle on American Airlines to Amtrak.
Can
Penn Station,
that?
I don't blame her. I would much rather take the shuttle, the airline as well.
But doesn't that tell you you don't want to go to Penn Station because it's disgusting? You don't want to walk down the street in the Mission District in San Francisco because there's human waste and hypodermic needles. How should I take someone seriously as an environmentalist if they don't pick up the trash in front of their own building?
They're unable to run their cities now, but somehow if they are given more power to run all of government, to employ basically the entire nation, including those unwilling to work, as they mentioned, somehow they'll be able to fix things. They can't run Amtrak well now. What makes us think that they will build a national automotive grid or train railroads?
I feel like a lot of conservatives, Republicans certainly, are on the defensive as soon as these people start talking and they say, climate is a problem. Instead of just saying you have no idea what you're talking about, there's no reference in science to what you're saying, you're a demagogue and a liar.
There's no reference to science. You're a demagogue and a liar. Didn't we show you charts and graphs? What more do you need? Do we have to take you by that? Do I have to read them to you? I mean, what's the problem? You know, you look at those charts that we showed you. If that was a stock, you'd say, oh man, look at me. I picked the best stocks in the world. But guys, hey, I think we got one more with Tucker. And then we're going to show you what this bozo really does for a living. So Kurt, 36.
I feel like a lot of conservatives, Republicans certainly, are on the defensive as soon as these people start talking and they say, climate is a problem. Instead of just saying you have no idea what you're talking about, there's no reference in science to what you're saying, you're a demagogue and a liar. Why does nobody say that?
I wish they would just point out what actually fossil fuels does for our country, what it does for our economy, the quality of life that we have. The kids who were marching just on Saturday were all with smartphones. There was a girl who had a plastic Fiji water bottle. Does she not know that? Saying stop fossil fuels. Does she not know where fossil fuels come from and what they do?
what plastic is made of? Thank you very much for that perspective. I appreciate it.
So guys, what do you think his association is? Well, we're not going to keep in suspense. Here's what his company does. Kurt, 37. Look like well drilling equipment. 100,000 New Mexicans go to work every day drilling holes to suck up gas so they can burn it and put carbon in the air. It's all becoming relevant to me now. Now I understand why you go on Fox News. Now I understand how the piper gets paid. So here you are, and we caught you. We got you. Unbelievable. Power the future. Guys, there's only one thing to say after you witness a bunch of clips like that. Busted! Hey, we caught him with his hand in the cookie jar. We exposed him, and you could see how Fox does it, where they get their information, how they get their information, and how they deceive the simple folk. But we're going to keep having fun because now we're going to go to Chris Cuomo, and he takes no prisoners when he starts giving the old bada bing to Elizabeth. Elizabeth Hang. She's trying to sell the hate, and Chris ain't buying it. So Kurt, number 41, please.
I just don't get the comparison.
No, if you look at it, it's they represent socialism. Socialism has not worked.
Mean shoot you dead in the streets.
It has evolved. You know, when Hugo Chavez in Venezuela was talking about socialism in that country, he was promoting many of the same ideologies, and look at what it has evolved into. And so the point of this is to force a discussion, because I do believe that through freedom and the economic opportunities that this country has provided to myself, my family, and many others is what we need to hold on to strengthen for our country, so that people have opportunities
100%.
and to radically transform it. Let's even just say the Green New Deal at $93 trillion to radically transform our country, where we don't have a way of actually getting these things done.
But it's not going to wind up in genocide. Not genocide, though. Here's what I don't get, is that, you know, I get that you want to make political points with this, but, you know, people like your family and what you represent, which, again, I believe is part of the blessing of this country, your fight is with the president that you support. He's the one who talks about people like your parents, like there's some other that shouldn't be in this country because they came here with nothing except the hope in their heart and wanting to make it. He doesn't want those people in this country now. AOC isn't your enemy. You can go after her policies and say they don't fit in a capitalist society. But if you may not believe it, but it's the truth, Elizabeth. He's the one who's going after people like your family.
I don't believe.
You may not believe it, but it's the truth. Guys, she only wants to hear from like-thinking people. And, you know, so Chris takes her out to the woodshed, and you see how she's trying to defend herself. But the thing is, you know, I mean, how much do you have to pay somebody to want to go against their better judgment? And why would this girl want to do what she's doing? You know, why does she want everybody to think that socialism is so evil? Does she think that the people that get a Social Security check, like me, are evil? Am I a socialist because I'm getting a Social Security check? But yet she wants to make socialists seem so evil. Guys, I haven't killed anybody. There's no bodies in the street. You won't find any here. But, you know, you get somebody like Elizabeth Tang, why she stands up for Trump is beyond me. It's like that woman I met at ShopRite. I pointed out Trump's lies, and she goes, Rich, I don't care.
She wants a job.
I love the guy. She wants the job. You got it. Well, let's see how bad she wants the job with clip number 42.
You may not believe it, but it's the truth, Elizabeth. He's the one who's going after people like your family.
Chris, I don't believe this because I stand by the president, and the thing is with the president,
I stand by him no matter what.
He fights against socialism in every turn that he can.
But he embraces dictators everywhere he finds them.
Freedom and economic opportunities. Look, he's working, you know, I'm not going to talk, I'm not here on the show to talk about what the president is doing from a foreign policy standpoint.
Why not?
My main point for creating this PAC, well, I want to talk about my main point for creating this PAC.
But if you're going to say that your fear is that we're going to have an autocratic regime that winds up killing people in the name of a political ideology, you have a president who I don't believe has any capability like that, but you look at a Duterte, he says favorable things. Putin, favorable things. Kim Jong-un, favorable things. That is what you should be scared about, is that him saying, we don't want Bahamians in there because they're drug dealers. We don't want people coming across our southern border because they're a brown menace. That should concern you. But you're likening AOC wanting a Green New Deal to somebody who tried to commit genocide in Cambodia?
Guys, I tell you, now you know why I watch him. He takes no prisoners, and in the final chapter, in the final clip, he really puts it to her. So, Kurt, 43, please.
You're likening AOC wanting a Green New Deal to somebody who tried to commit genocide in Cambodia?
Look, socialism has always been disguised in these these topics of making life better, etc. But in reality, they don't work, and we've seen that time and time again. The more that you implement government into our lives, the less freedoms and economic opportunities we have to succeed. And that is what I'm going to work as hard as possible, and that's why I created the New Faces GOP PAC to recruit the future generations of the next Republicans that are going to be the antidote to the AOCs and the squad.
That's fine, but
to
paint them as genocidal maniacs and say that you want a better brand of politics, I'm fine with you having the PAC. That's America. I'm fine with it being funded by a lot of venture capitalists. I don't know how that makes it a middle-class machine, but you do whatever you want to do. But the idea of saying, if you want a Green New Deal, if you want single-payer health care, you're going to wind up killing people in the streets, like happened with my family and people they knew in Cambodia. I mean, that is toxic politics. You must know that.
Toxic. That's worse than
And I just
toxic.
disagree with you on that. I was merely making the point of...
Set her face on.
I was merely making the point. I was merely making the point, Chris, that it is... do you want to know what incites violence? That's socialism.
You
We've seen
incite
that.
violence.
And I disagree with you on that.
Of course you disagree with him. You have to disagree with him. Kurt, how much time do we have left? All right, let's go to clip number 48. Guys, this will show you how to sign up if you want to get involved with climate change action this week. So, Kurt, can you play 48? And then run our credits.
We are the younger generation. We are the ones who are going to be affected. And therefore we demand justice.
What do we want? Climate justice! What do we want it? Now!
Everyone should mobilize for the 20th and the 20th of September because this is a global issue which actually affects everyone. We are all in the same boat, so everyone should be concerned about this.
Me movilizo porque somos un movimiento mundial.
I'm striking because if we don't fight for our future now, soon we won't have a future left to fight for.
Beautiful.
次の世代への平等を求めてマーチに参加します。
Je soutiens aussi la grève des enfants pour que
All
les
different languages saying the same thing.
L'avenir soit radieux pour nous tous.
Eu vou participar da greve pelo clima no dia 20 de setembro de 2019 porque eu acredito que é responsabilidade nossa cuidar da nossa casa.
And we stand with the youth who are taking a stance today and raising up their voice to be able to have a real impact.
从去年开始，我们看到全球的年轻人
Nice job, Kurt.
那我们了解到气候变迁它会影响到的不是这一个世代，还有下个世代。
Jeg synes, det er vigtigt, at med i de globale klimastrategier. Det her det kan være den sidste chance, vi har for politikerne op til at handle på klimakrisen.
Я вийду на Global Climate Strike, тому що відчуваю свою власну відповідальність за те, що відбувається зараз на планеті.
I'm joining the strikes because I believe it's time to resist and to take charge of the future that belongs to us, not to the fossil fuel companies.
我们应该立即展开行动，不管是政府、企业、个人。
We stand with Greta and all those fighting for our future.
We need you to be a
guys, I want to thank Kurt. I want to thank Candy and Dave. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. I want to thank you for watching on YouTube. And, you know, who knows what's going to happen.